welcome to Once Upon a Time. We're so glad to join you today and tell stories to you and talk about books. I'm Catherine Poulter. I'm the children's librarian.
And I am Becca Hyde. I am an early childhood librarian at Marshall Public Library.
And we love our jobs. In fact, it doesn't even seem like work. It seems like play to be able to read all day to children. I have a whole stack of books by one of my favorite artists and authors, Tommy DePaola, and he wrote some books about a lady named Strega-Nona. I will start with the first book of Strega-Nona's history, and then there's some more. So you'll see. Here we go. Strega-Nona, an old tale retold and illustrated by Tommy DePaola. And here we go. Strega-Nona. In a town in Calabria, a long time ago, there lived an old lady everyone called Strega-Nona, which meant Grandma Witch. Although all the people in town talked about her in whispers, they all went to see her if they had troubles. Even the priests and the sisters of the convent went, because Strega-Nona did have a magic touch. She could cure a headache with oil and water and a hairpin. She made special potions for the girls who wanted husbands, and she was very good at getting rid of warts. But Strega-Nona was getting old, and she needed someone to help her keep her little house and garden, so she put up a sign in the town square. Big Anthony, who didn't pay attention, went to see her. "Anthony," said Strega-Nona, "you must sweep the house and wash the dishes. You must weed the garden and pick the vegetables. You must feed the goat and milk her. And you must fetch the water. For this I will give you 3 coins and a place to sleep and food to eat." "Oh, grazie," said Big Anthony. "The one thing you must never do," said Strega-Nona, "is touch the magic pasta pot. It is very valuable, and I don't let anyone touch it." "Oh, see, yes," said Big Anthony. And so the days went by. Big Anthony did his work, and Strega-Nona met with the people who came to see her for headaches and husbands and warts. Big Anthony had a nice bed to sleep in next to the goat shed, and he had food to eat. One evening, when Big Anthony was milking the goat, he heard Strega-Nona singing. Peeking in the window, he saw Strega-Nona standing over the pasta pot. She sang, "Bubble, bubble, pasta pot, boil me up some pasta nice and hot. I'm hungry and it's time to sup. Boil enough pasta to fill me up." And the pasta pot bubbled and boiled and was suddenly filled with steaming hot pasta. Then Strega-Nona sang, "Enough, enough, my pasta pot, I have my pasta nice and hot. So simmer down my pot of clay until I'm hungry another day." "How wonderful," said Big Anthony. "That's a magic pasta pot for sure." And Strega-Nona called Big Anthony in for supper, but too bad for Big Anthony, because he didn't see Strega-Nona blow 3 kisses to the magic pasta pot. And this is what happened. The next day, when Big Anthony went to the town square to fetch the water, he told everyone about the pasta pot. And naturally, everyone laughed at him because it sounded so silly. A pasta pot that cooked all by itself? "You'd better go and confess to the priest, Big Anthony," they said. "Such a lie." And Big Anthony was angry, and that wasn't a very good thing to be. "I'll show them," he said to himself. "Someday I will get the pasta pot and make it cook, and then they'll be sorry." That day came sooner than Big Anthony would have imagined, because 2 days later, Strega-Nona said to Big Anthony, "Anthony, I must go over the mountains to the next town to see my friend Strega-Amelia. Sweep the house and weed the garden, feed the goat and milk her, and for your lunch there is some bread and cheese in the cupboard. And remember, don't touch the pasta pot." "Oh, yes, yes, yes," Strega-Nona said Big Anthony. But inside he was thinking, "Ha! My chance has come at last." As soon as Stregonona was out of sight, Big Anthony went inside, pulled the pasta pot off the shelf, and put it on the floor. "Now let's see if I can remember the words," said Big Anthony. And Big Anthony sang, "Bubble, bubble, pasta pot, boil me some pasta nice and hot. I'm hungry and it's time to sup, boil enough pasta to fill me up." And sure enough, the pot bubbled and boiled and began to fill up with pasta. "Aha!" said Big Anthony. And he ran to the town square, jumped on the fountain, and shouted, "Everyone get forks and plates and platters and bowls, pasta for all at Stregonona's house." Big Anthony has made the pasta pot work. Of course everyone laughed, but they ran home to get forks and plates and platters and bowls. And sure enough, when they got to Stregonona's house, the pasta pot was full, and it was beginning to overflow. Big Anthony was a hero. He scooped out pasta and filled the plates and platters and bowls. Then there was more than enough for all the townspeople, including the priest and the sisters from the convent. And some people came back for 2 and 3 helpings, but the pot was never empty. When all had had their fill, Big Anthony sang, "Enough, enough, my pasta pot, I have my pasta nice and hot, so simmer down my pot of clay until I'm hungry another day." But alas, he did not blow the 3 kisses. He went outside, and to the applause of the crowd, Big Anthony took a bow. He was so busy listening to the compliments from everyone that he didn't notice the pasta pot was still bubbling and boiling, until a sister from the convent said, "Oh, Big Anthony, look!" And pasta was pouring out of the pot all over the floor of Stregonona's house and was coming out the door. Big Anthony rushed in and shouted the magic words again, but the pot kept on bubbling. He took the pot off the floor, but the pasta kept on pouring from it. Big Anthony grabbed a cover and put it on the pasta pot and sat on it. But the pasta raised the cover and Big Anthony as well, and it spilled on the floor of Stregonona's house. "Stop!" yelled Big Anthony. But the pot did not stop, and if someone hadn't grabbed poor Big Anthony, the pasta would have covered him up. The pasta had all but filled the little house. Out of the windows and through the doors came the pasta, and the pot kept right on bubbling. The townspeople began to worry. "Do something, Big Anthony," they shouted. Big Anthony sang the magic song again and again, but without the 3 kisses, it did no good. By this time the pasta was on its way down the road, and all the people were running to keep ahead of it. "We must protect our town from the pasta," shouted the mayor. "Get mattresses, tables, doors, anything to make a barricade." But even that didn't work. The pot kept bubbling, and the pasta kept on coming. "We are lost," said the people, and the priest and the sisters of the convent began to pray. "The pasta will cover our town," they cried. And it certainly would have, had Stregonona not come down the road, home from her visit. She didn't have to look twice to know what had happened. She sang the magic song and blew the 3 kisses, and with a sputter, the pot stopped boiling and the pasta came to a halt. "Oh, gratias, thank you, Stregonona," the people cried. But then they turned on poor Big Anthony. "String him up," the men of the town shouted. "Now wait," said Stregonona. "The punishment must fit the crime." And she took a fork from a lady standing nearby and held it out to Big Anthony. "All right, Anthony. You wanted pasta from my magic pasta pot," Stregonona said. "And I want to sleep in my little house tonight. So start eating." And he did. Poor Big Anthony. The end.
It is a classic.
It is. I like that.
I love it. Well, I like to think of summer as a great time to take many car rides, many journeys. And so I've chosen another classic story, Mr. Gumpy's Motor Car by John Birmingham. Written in 1973. Mr. Gumpy was going for a ride in his car. He drove out the gate and down the lane. "May we come too?" said the children. "May we?" said the rabbit, the cat, the dog, the pig, the sheep, the chickens, the calf, and the goat. "All right," said Mr. Gumpy, "but it will be a squash." And they all piled in. "It's a lovely day," said Mr. Gumpy. "Let's take the old dirt road across the fields." For a while they drove along happily. The sun shone, the engine chugged, and everyone was enjoying the ride. "I don't like the look of those clouds. I think it's going to rain," said Mr. Gumpy. And very soon the dark clouds were right overhead. Mr. Gumpy stopped the car. He jumped out, put up the top, and down came the rain. The road grew muddier and muddier, and the wheels began to spin. Mr. Gumpy looked at the hill ahead. "Some of you will have to get out and push," he said. "Not me," said the goat. "I'm too old." "Not me," said the calf. "I'm too young." "Not us," said the chickens. "We can't push." "Not me," said the sheep. "I might catch cold." "Not me," said the pig. "I've a bone in my trotter." "Not me," said the dog. "But I'll drive if you like." "Not me," said the cat. "It would ruin my fur." "Not me," said the rabbit. "I'm not very well." "Not me," said the girl. "He's stronger." "Not me," said the boy. "She's bigger." So no one got out, and the wheels churned and churned and churned. The car sank deeper into the mud. "Now we're really stuck," said Mr. Gumpy. They all got out and pushed. They pushed and shoved and heaved and strained and gasped and slipped and slithered and squelched. Slowly the car began to move. "Don't stop," cried Mr. Gumpy. "Keep it up. We're nearly there." Everyone gave a mighty heave. The tires gripped. The car edged its way to the top of the hill. They looked up and saw that the sun was shining again. It began to get hot. "We'll drive home across the bridge," said Mr. Gumpy. "Then you can go for a swim." And they did. And after a while, it was time to go home. "Goodbye," said Mr. Gumpy. "Come for a drive another day." The end. Mr. Gumpy's out.
Oh, what a nice story. I like to go on drives too.
Yes, me
Yes.
too.
Now this next story is about Stregonona, and it's called Stregonona, Her Story, as told to Tommy DePaula. Can you imagine that Stregonona, Grandma Witch, was once a little baby? We will find out about that. This book was copyright 1996. Here we go. It all began one night a long time ago in a little village in the hills of Calabria in the country now known as Italy. Almost everyone was fast asleep. The weather was fierce that dark night. The wind blew and blew. A cold rain fell, and a baby was about to be born. "Oh, my poor wife," Giuseppe, the young husband, said to Zia Rosa, who was there to help. "Every child of ours was brought into the world by Grandma Concetta. But with this terrible weather, how will she be able to come down from her little house on the hill?" Hours passed. The wind blew harder, more rain fell. Still the baby didn't come. "Where is that baby?" Giuseppe asked. Zia Rosa lit a candle. "Perhaps it is waiting," she answered. "For what?" Giuseppe asked. "For me," called Grandma Concetta, bursting through the doorway. On a gust of wind, "No grandchild of mine can be born without me." Taking off her cloak and rolling up her sleeves, she headed for the bedroom, "Follow me, Rosa. Now the baby will come." And sure enough, a baby girl was born in no time at all. "Ah," said Grandma Concetta, looking down at the new bambina, "she shall be called Nona, and she will become a strega." As soon as little Nona could walk, Grandma Concetta took her along while she gathered herbs and weeds for her lotions and potions. Grandma Concetta was a strega, and all the villagers came to her for cures and advice on many things. "Ah, Nona Lena, here is Rosmarina, rosemary, very good for growing hair, especially on bald heads. Also excellent as furniture polish. And here is Aglio Selvaccio, wild garlic, the only thing for an upset stomach. Come along, let's see what else we can find." By the end of their walk, Grandma Concetta's basket would be filled to overflowing. When little Nona was old enough to go to school, she was sent to study with the sisters of the convent. There she met little Amelia, and they became best friends right away. Nona helped Amelia with her lessons, especially spelling and writing, and Amelia in turn loaned Nona her pretty hair ribbons, even though Nona didn't ask for them. One day Amelia looked at Nona and said, "We should do something different with your hair," so Amelia curled it. "Whoa! Perhaps the braids are better," said Amelia. Best of all, Nona and Amelia liked to visit Grandma Concetta. When Nona held the big book of spells and Amelia turned the pages, Grandma Concetta always said, "I knew the first time I looked at you, Nona, that one day you would become a strega. But I had no idea I would have 2 little girls to pass my magic down to. I am filled with contentment." Nona and Amelia watched Grandma Concetta mix her lotions and potions. They listened as she talked to the villagers about their troubles, headaches, warts, baldness, and other worries, and gave them her remedies along with good advice. And after all the villagers had gone back down the hill, at the end of the day, Grandma Concetta gave the girls wonderful plates of steaming hot pasta. It appeared from her pasta pot as if by magic, and it tasted so special that Nona and Amelia always asked Grandma Concetta what her secret ingredient was. But Grandma Concetta would only smile and say nothing. When the girls finished at the convent, it was decided that they would go to the city and enter the Accademia della Strega, the Academy for Stregas, where they would learn the more modern ways to do magic. Amelia loved the city, the bustle, the noise, and most of all, the shopping. And she loved learning to use the Academy's machines and the new scientific ways to do spells. "Nona," she said, "this is all so much better than the old ways Grandma Concetta uses." But Nona missed the old spells. She didn't like the city streets, and she longed for walks in the country with Grandma Concetta, whom she missed most of all. So Nona went home and climbed the hill to Grandma Concetta's house. "Well, cara mia," Grandma Concetta said after hearing Nona's story, "the Academia is not for everyone. I have a feeling you need to be right here with me." So Nona began learning to be a strega from the very best strega of them all, Grandma Concetta. She learned how to mix lotions and potions. She turned the pages of the big book for Grandma Concetta, and she watched the way Grandma Concetta treated each villager who walked up the hill to ask for her help. Every day, Nona cleaned and polished Grandma Concetta's pasta pot. She knew it was magic, but Grandma Concetta never showed her how to use it. And whenever Strega Nona asked about it, Grandma Concetta always answered, "There will be time enough, Nona. Now, here's how you make the lotion to remove warts." "Nona," Grandma Concetta, "it's Amelia, home for a visit." And oh, it was so good to see Amelia again. They all kissed her and talked, and Amelia talked the most, telling Nona and Grandma Concetta all about the machines at the academy, and the fancy scientific methods she now knew how to use. Did you learn any of the old spells? Grandma Conchetta asked. Oh, yes, indeed, Amelia answered. Watch the goat. She opened her notebook and she chanted some strange words. Capra, goat. Teto, roof. And presto, with a bang and a cloud of smoke, Grandma's goat was on the roof. Ah, that's it, she exclaimed proudly. It's a spell for moving things up. We use it to put things back on shelves. Isn't that wonderful? Very good, Amelia. Now will you get my goat down? Grandma Conchetta asked. Amelia looked through her notebook. She looked and looked. I must have gone shopping that day, she said. Maybe Nona can do it, Grandma Conchetta said. Nona looked up at the roof. Then she ran into the house and came back with a bottle of olive oil. She climbed up the tree next to the little house and poured some oil on the roof. The goat slipped and slid right off. Oh, Nona, how marvelously clever you are, Amelia said. But look what I have from the academy. She opened her purse and pulled out a big piece of parchment. This is my diploma that says I am a genuine Strega. Now don't worry, Grandma Conchetta and Nona. I'm not going to give you competition, she said, laughing. I am going to go into business in town on the other side of the mountain. It's so much bigger and busier than our little village. And it has so many shops. You must come and see me, she told them. Well, I'm off. Arrivederci. Sweet Grandma, sweet Nona. That evening, Nona and Grandma Conchetta sat outside before Nona went home. And Nona was very quiet. Nona Lena cara, Grandma Conchetta said. What is the matter? I guess I'll never be a real Strega like Amelia. I won't ever have a diploma. Ah, Grandma Conchetta said. You don't need a diploma to be a true Strega. You already have everything you need. You have the spirit and kindness that comes from the heart. And when I pass my practice over to you, I will tell you the ingredient secreto, the secret ingredient. Then you will be not only a true Strega, but a great one. Years went by. One day, Grandma Conchetta called Nona to her. It's time, Nona. I am ready to retire. I'm going to spend the rest of my days at the seashore, and you must take my place. You shall have my little house, my book of spells, my herbs, and my remedies. And in the cupboard I have let you my pasta pot, with something inside it. And with that, Grandma Conchetta said, From this day forth, you shall be known as Strega Nona. Then she put on her cloak, picked up her bag, and started down the hill. Nona stood in front of the little house that was now hers. She waved and waved until Grandma Conchetta was out of sight. Nona wiped away a tear and walked in. She went straight to the cupboard and looked in the pasta pot. There she found a letter. Cara Strega Nona, my magic pasta pot is now yours. Whenever you are hungry, sing the little song, and the pot will bubble and boil and fill up with pasta. When you have enough, sing the second song, but you must blow 3 kisses and the pot will stop. For that is the secret ingredient, love. It is the same with all your magic. Always love, your Grandma Conchetta. More years passed and Strega Nona was loved by everyone. She helped all the people who came to her with their troubles, even the priest and the sisters of the convent. She did have a magic touch, and always Strega Nona never forgot the secret ingredient. Life was happy in the little house on the hill. Strega Nona kept the goat, a peacock, a rabbit, and a dove for company. But Strega Nona was getting old, and she needed someone to help her. She needed someone to help her keep her house and garden and her dear animals. So she went down to the village and put up a sign. The rest is history. The end.
Strega Nona.
Yes.
Love it, love it. This is a book that is also quite dear to my heart. It's by Shirley Hughes. This is the Big Alfie Out of Doors storybook. And there are many books that Shirley Hughes wrote about Alfie and his sister Annie Rose. and I used to read them to my children. And this story is about a very special rock, one that is much beloved by Alfie. And it's a good summer story. One fine summer morning, Alfie went out into the backyard to look around, and he found a stone. It was especially nice, a nice sort of gray stone, worn very smooth all over with white streaks in it. It was rounded on one side and flattish on the other, and it fitted well into the palm of Alfie's hand. Alfie turned the stone over and over and passed it from one hand to the other. Then he put it into the pocket of his shorts. He kept it there all day. Whenever he put his hand into his pocket, he felt comforting. By the end of the day, Alfie decided that the stone had become a real friend, and he called it Bonteen. Alfie liked Bonteen a lot. He liked him almost as much as his blanket and his knitted elephant. Alfie's elephant was old, nearly as old as Alfie, but Mom said that Bonteen was a lot older than that. He was very old, perhaps thousands and thousands of years. Alfie didn't know anybody as old as that, so it made Bonteen very special. Mom gave Alfie a box lined with cotton batting for Bonteen to sleep in. He put it on the nightstand next to his bed. Alfie's elephant wore a scarf and a hat to match, which Grandma had knitted for him. He looked very smart in them. Alfie asked Mom if she would please make some clothes for Bonteen, too. Mom said that Bonteen looked as though he might be a difficult shape to fit, but she would do her best. She and Alfie looked into the basket where Mom kept her snippets of stuff, and Alfie chose a bit with green and black stripes. Then Mom made a hat for Bonteen and a scarf, which tied round his middle. There was a bit of stuff left over, so she made him a bathing suit as well. The bathing suit was a good idea because the weather was getting hot. Alfie and Annie Rose played in the backyard, splashing about in the paddling pool and sailing their toy boats. Bonteen didn't float in the water. He sunk straight down to the bottom and stayed there. When Dad came home, he said that if the weather stayed hot and sunny, they would get up very early and drive to the seashore. Alfie was very excited. He had seen the sea before, but that was a very long time ago, and he couldn't quite remember what it looked like. Mom got the picnic ready, and they packed up the towels and sun hats and bathing suits and Alfie's armbands for swimming and the buckets and spades and put them in the car. Bonteen came too, of course, inside Alfie's pocket. It was a long drive. Inside, the car got hotter and hotter. Annie Rose went to sleep. Alfie looked out the window, hoping to see the sea, but all he could see were cars, trucks, and motorcycles. At last, they arrived. The sea was huge, almost as big as the sky. It stretched away and away, full of sparkling light. Far out, there were big waves where the sea met the beach. It broke into little waves. They arched over one another, running up the sand and then out again, sucking seaweed and pebbles with them. Alfie stood still and looked. He just couldn't stop looking. The first thing they did was change into their bathing suits and run into the waves. Then they raced each other up to the beach and ate their picnic. Bonteen had a little piece of Alfie's sandwich. After lunch, Alfie gave Bonteen a swim in a pool and put him carefully to dry in the sun. Then Alfie dug a sand castle. Dad and Annie Rose helped, and they threw a ball about. They collected shells and bits of frilly seaweed and looked at the little fish and crabs hiding in the pools under the rocks. At last, when the tide had gone out, leaving miles and miles of shining sand, and Alfie's shadow was getting longer and longer, Mom and Dad started to pack up the towels and the picnic things and get ready to go home. Alfie and Annie Rose fetched their spades and buckets, full of the special things that they had collected. Then Alfie felt in his pocket to check for Bonteen, but he wasn't there. He remembered that he had put him out to dry after his swim. He ran anxiously to the place where he had left him, but Bonteen was nowhere to be seen. Alfie looked all around. There were stones everywhere, hundreds and hundreds of them, but not one wearing a green and black striped bathing suit. Alfie began to be very upset. Of course, Mom and Dad started to look for Bonting. They hunted up and down the beach, turning over pebbles with their feet and peering into rock pools. Annie Rose hunted too, but they couldn't find him. After a long search, Dad said that it was getting so late, way past Alfie and Annie Rose's bedtime, that they really had to start for home. "But we can't leave Bonting behind," wailed Alfie. "He'll be all lonely on the beach at night." Dad put his arm around Alfie and explained that Bonting wouldn't be lonely because he would have so many other stones to keep him company, so he wouldn't mind at all. All the same, Alfie cried all the way to the parking lot and part of the way home in the car. In the end, he was so tired that he fell asleep, and so did Annie Rose. It was very late when they arrived home. They hardly woke up when Mom and Dad carried them into the house and put them to bed. In the morning, the first thing Alfie saw when he woke up was Bonting's empty box, and he felt sad. After breakfast, he and Annie Rose went into the backyard where Mom was hanging out the bathing suits and the towels. Their buckets and spades were by the back door. Alfie began to sort through his bucket. He'd collected some lovely shells and some nice stones. He lined them up in a row on the doorstep, but none of them was quite as nice as Bonting. Annie Rose's bucket was full of seaweed and muddy water. She picked it up and tipped out the whole lot onto the ground. There was a strong smell of seaside. Then Alfie and Annie Rose looked into the bottom of Annie Rose's bucket. And what do you think they saw? It was Bonting! His green and black bathing suit was all sopping wet and covered with mud. Alfie was very pleased to see him. "Bonting will have to have a new bathing suit," he told Mom. "The next one had better be bright red," said Mom. "Then he'll be easier to find if you decide to take him for another swim." The end.
Oh, I'm so glad they found Bonting.
Me too.
I like that.
I love the English seaside and Alfie and Annie Rose.
Yes, oh, that's wonderful. This next Stregonona book is called Stregonona's Magic Lessons. And this is an original story by Tom and DePaula. Bambolona, the baker's daughter, was angry. Every day, summer, fall, winter, and spring, she had to get up before the sun to bake the bread. Then, piling the loaves on her head, she went out to deliver them. But her work wasn't finished. Rushing back to the bakery, she had to mix the flour and salt and water and yeast and set the dough to rise for tomorrow's bread. "Don't forget," her father the baker would say, "to make the cookies and bake the cakes, and remember, Bambolona, to clean up everything spick and span. I'm going now to see my friends." And off he would go to sit all day in the square of the little town in Calabria. One day Bambolona said, "Papa, there is too much work to do. I need some help." "Oh, get up earlier," her father said. "But I get up now before the sun," said Bambolona, "and I'm the last one in town to go to bed." "That's the way things are," her father said, as he went out the door on his way to the square. "And don't forget," he called back, "you have a wedding cake to bake." That did it. Bambolona dusted the flour from her hands and took off her apron. "I'm going to change the way things are," she said. "I'll go see Stregonona. She's so wise. She'll help me." "I think I know how to help you," Stregonona said after hearing Bambolona's sad tale. "So many people come to me with their troubles. I could certainly use some help. Why not stay with me and I will teach you my magic?" "Oh, Stregonona," said Bambolona. "Thank you." "We'll start today," said Stregonona. Now, Big Anthony, who worked around the house and in the garden for Stregonona, was listening. He was always listening to what other people were talking about instead of working. "Stregonona," he shouted, running into the house. "Me too! Teach me your magic too!" "Oh, Anthony," Stregonona said with a smile, "I can't do that. Why don't you go and milk the goat?" Now Big Anthony was the one who was angry. "I'll show Stregonona," he muttered. "I'll just go and work for the baker, now that Bambolona has left." Down the hill Big Anthony ran. The baker hired him on the spot. The first thing you must do is mix the dough, the baker told Big Anthony. Put in this much flour and this much salt, this much water and this much yeast. He looked hard at Big Anthony's smiling face. Do you understand? The yeast makes the dough rise. Now mix it in right away, and by the time I get back at 6 o'clock, the dough will be ready to make into loaves. Si, signor. Yes, sir, Big Anthony said. The baker walked out the door and toward the square. I'll just look at everything first, said Big Anthony, poking around. Cookies! He ate one, and then another. Cakes! He ate one, and then another. Big Anthony ate them all. In fact, he was still eating when the clock in the square struck 4. Oh, Mamma Mia, said Big Anthony. I forgot to mix the dough. It won't rise in time. Ah, at least I know. The yeast makes the dough rise. I'll just put in a lot more of that, and the dough will rise that much faster. I'll still have time for a nap, he said. When he got through it, he sat down, and he promptly fell asleep. What a sight the baker saw when he returned. Out! He shouted. What's the matter, Big Anthony? Asked Signora Rosa. The baker threw me out. Now I have no job, he answered. And it's Stregonona's fault. I never would have left her house if she had let me learn to be a strega. You silly goose, said Signora Rosa. Who ever heard of a man being a strega? All of a sudden, Big Anthony's eyes lit up, and off he ran. Ha ha ha. To cure a headache, you must fill the bowl with water, Stregonona was telling Bambolona. Then you add a few drops of oil. Then you say these magic words. Knock, knock, knock. Stregonona went to the door. Oh, Stregonona, said a tall girl standing there. All my life I wanted to learn your magic. Will you teach me, please? Santo cielo, dear me, said Stregonona. What is your name, my girl? Antonia, said the girl. Why do you want to learn my good magic, Antonia? Stregonona asked. Oh, so I can help people, said Antonia. Ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to become a strega. Ah, in that case, said Stregonona. Come right in. This is Bambolona. She is learning my magic, too. Bambolona stared at Antonia and then at Stregonona. How nice. 2 girls to teach, Stregonona said. She smiled at Bambolona and then she began. To learn magic and practice it well, she said, you must learn to see and not to see. You must learn to remember and to forget, to be still and to be busy. But mostly you must be faithful to your work. Do you understand, my dears? Yes, Stregonona said Bambolona. Oh, no, said Antonia. When are we going to learn how to do the magic things? In time, said Stregonona. Now let's practice some of the magic words. Repeat them in the right order after me. Soon Bambolona knew all of them by heart. Antonia kept mixing them up. Bambolona learned the cure for headaches. Antonia didn't. Bambolona learned to make love potions. Antonia didn't. Bambolona learned how to get rid of warts. Antonia didn't. Bambolona said, Stregonona, I think you are ready now to learn some more powerful magic. This is a special book. It is very ancient, and it contains many magic secrets. Tomorrow we will begin with it. Oh, grazie, Stregonona said. Stregonona said Bambolona. Me too, Stregonona, asked Antonia. Not yet, Antonia, said Stregonona. You have other things to learn. That night, while everyone slept, Antonia crept into Stregonona's house. Bambolona thinks she's so smart, said Antonia. I'll just read the book tonight, and tomorrow I'll surprise her and Stregonona. The next morning, Antonia was looking very tired. Antonia, said Stregonona, watch and listen. Come, Bambolona, we will start. Wait, wait, shouted Antonia. I have a surprise. I know some real magic. Watch me turn that iron kettle into a golden one. Are you sure? Said Stregonona, frowning. oh yes, said Antonia, beginning to mutter some strange-sounding words. But she stopped. Wait, I remember now, she began again. Be careful, Antonia, warned Bambolona. Magic can't be fooled with. I've got it now, said Antonia. She mumbled more words. Suddenly there was a bright flash, some smelly smoke, and the iron kettle was still there. But Stregonona wasn't. Instead, where Stregonona had been standing, there was a nice, fat toad. Now what have you done? Cried Bambolona. Oh, no, shouted Antonia. Oh, help! Help! Somebody! Save Stregonona! What have I done? Stregonona warned you to be careful with magic. Now she's gone forever. Stregonona, wept Antonia, picking up the toad. Forgive me, forgive me. Please, Bambolona, you're so clever, you're so smart. Please change her back again. I promise I'll never play with magic again. I can't change that toad into Stregonona, said Bambolona. But I can change Antonia into Big Anthony. Bambolona pulled off Antonia's kerchief, and sure enough, there was Big Anthony. Oh, I'll never learn, howled Big Anthony. I'll never learn. Oh, Stregonona, Stregonona, what have I done to you? Perhaps, said Bambolona, if you really promise to never ever play with magic again, that will bring Stregonona back. Do you really think that would work? Said Big Anthony, sobbing. It's worth a try, said Bambolona. And Big Anthony put down the toad. He closed his eyes tightly, and he put his hand over his heart. I promise, I really promise, that as long as I live, I will never play with magic again. Just please bring Stregonona back. There was another bright flash, some smelly smoke, and presto, Stregonona was back. Where am I? Said Stregonona. Oh, I'm in my little house. Whatever happened to me? Hello, Bambolona. And why Big Anthony? What are you doing here? Where's sweet Antonia? Tell her, Big Anthony, said Bambolona. Oh, Stregonona, said Big Anthony. Falling on his knees, he told Stregonona what he had done. He was so busy crying and talking that he didn't see the nice fat toad hopping past him out the door. And so, Stregonona, please, he said, if you take me back, I promise to be good. I'll do all my chores and never play with magic again. All right, Anthony, said Stregonona, smiling. But before you go back to work, change your clothes. You're wearing Signora Rosa's best dress. The end.
Poor Big Anthony.
I know.
Now, when I was a girl, I loved this book. I was fascinated by this book, and I checked it out so many times from my little library. And so here, I thought I would read it for you today. It's titled Zeralda's Ogre. It's by Tommy Unger. Zeralda's Ogre. For Sarah. Once upon a time, there lived a lonely ogre. Like most ogres, he had sharp teeth, a bristling beard, a big nose, a big knife, a bad temper, and a huge appetite, of all things, for little children. For breakfast, he liked them best. Every day the ogre came to town snatching up children. Terrified parents dug secret hideaways for their infants. They stuffed their little boys and girls into trunks and barrels, in shadowy cellars and in underground vaults. Schools were empty and teachers were out of work. No children were to be seen in the open anymore. The ogre had to content himself with a diet of gruel, tepid cabbage, and cold potatoes. He grew grumpier and grumpier and grouchier, and he grumbled to himself. A sniff, a snuff. How hungry I feel. 5 or 6 children would make a nice meal. A sniff, a snuff. A snip, a snup. When I find some children, I will gobble them up. Now, in a distant valley, in a clearing in the middle of the woods, there lived a farmer with his one and only daughter, Zeralda. They had never heard of the ogre. Zeralda loved to cook. By the time she was 6, she knew how to broil and bake and braise and simmer and stew. Once a year, the farmer went to town to sell the goods of his little farm. One afternoon, before market day, he called to his daughter. "Zeralda, my lovely child," he said, "I need to go to market, but I feel awful. I cannot move, and my vision is blurry. I must have eaten too many of your apple dumplings for lunch. Tomorrow is the market day, and you will have to go there alone in place of me." The next day at dawn, Zeralda had harnessed the mule, loaded the cart, and left with her father's blessings. That very morning, the ogre, hungrier than ever, was on the loose. In a whiff of morning breeze, he caught the scent of young Zeralda. Hiding behind some handy rocks, the ogre waited, ready to leap down upon her. "And breakfast at last," he muttered. "Ha, ha, ha." So impatient was the starving monster that he tripped and crashed into the middle of the road. There he lay unconscious, with a sprained ankle and a bloody nose. "Oh, you poor man!" exclaimed Zeralda. At a nearby brook, she fetched a pail of water and washed the injured ogre's face. "Grrr, little girl," growled the ogre. "Oh, my head! Grrr, grrr, I'm so hungry." A sniff, a snuff, with some salt and some spice. Ogres think children are very nice. "The poor man is starving," thought Zeralda. Losing no time, she took some pots from the cart, gathered some wood, made a fire, and started to cook. Such was her pity for the hungry giant that she used up half of her market supplies. Soon she set before the ogre cream of watercress soup, smoked trout with capers, snails in garlic butter, a platter of roasted chickens, and a suckling pig. The ogre had fully regained his senses. He watched Zeralda with growing interest. The savor of all those dishes was a new experience. So delighted was he with the feast that he forgot all about his craving for children. It was the best meal the ogre had ever ate. "Dearest little girl," the ogre said, "there's a castle, my vaults are full of gold. I shall pay you a fortune if only you will come and cook for me." Zeralda thought for a minute and then agreed. So she helped the ogre into the cart, and off they went to the castle. Soon her father joined her and was put in charge of buying the best food in the country. In the castle's huge kitchen, Zeralda cooked and cooked, experimenting with new foods, concocting extravagant mixtures. Zeralda filled volume after volume of cookbooks with her new recipes. A typical midnight snack in the ogre's castle might include the following: sauerkraut and sausage, goose liver pâté in pastry shell, veal cutlets on a bed of truffled aspic, pompano Sarah Bernhardt, chocolate sauce Rasputin, roast turkey a la Cinderella, ogre's delight, candied fruits, lady fingers, and ice cream cakes. Banquets were held for neighboring ogres and ogresses. "Delicious, scrumptious, out of this world, simply divine," they exclaimed, overwhelmed as they begged Zeralda for her recipes. Needless to say, from that day on, all of the ogres lost their taste for children. Gone was the menace. Children came out of hiding, and all the villagers began to live normally again. Years went by. Zeralda grew up to be a beautiful maiden. The well-fed ogre shaved his beard. They fell in love. They married, led an elegant life, and had a lot of children. And so it would seem they lived happily ever after. There's their little boy with a fork and a knife behind his back.
Oh, that's great. I like that. The last Stregonona book I'm going to read is called Stregonona Does It Again. And this book Oh, I think you'll like it. It begins with a letter, and it says, Dear Cousin Stregonona, as you know, our oldest daughter Angelina has grown into quite a beauty, which is wonderful and terrible all at once. All the young men of the town are chasing after her. Every night they keep the whole household awake while they sing love songs. They leave so many flowers and gifts at the gate, we can hardly get in or out. They are a general nuisance. All except Hugo, the son of Duke Fabio. Angelina claims she is in love with him, but he doesn't seem to notice. He's always looking at himself in the mirror. Angelina is very unhappy. My wife and I think the only solution is for her to leave our village until she forgets Hugo. Would you mind if she stayed with you? She can arrive in a few days. Grazie. Thank you, dearest cousin. Duke Andrea di Limon and his wife. P.S. I want to warn you that Angelina is a handful. Well, said Stregonona to Big Anthony and Bambolona, it looks like we're going to have a visitor. My cousin's daughter is coming. It will be nice for you to have someone company your own age. I'll give Angelina my bedroom and sleep on the bed in the kitchen. Now let's get ready. So they're plumping the pillows and bringing in fresh linen. Here she comes, Stregonona, said Big Anthony. Oh, my. Benaventura, Angelina, welcome. Dear me, Stregonona said softly. So much luggage. Big Anthony, help unload the cart, Stregonona said. And Bambolona, please show Angelina her room. Angelina was not an easy guest. I don't like this room. My room at home is blue with pink flowers. I don't eat pasta. At home, I eat fresh fruit. I need a maid. At home, I have a maid. Bambolona, you can be my maid. I've never been a maid. What does a maid do? Asked Bambolona. First of all, she wears a uniform, and she does everything I tell her to do. So Bambolona brought flowers, she made a bubble bath, she helped Angelina get dressed, and she was beautiful. I need a footman. At home I have a footman, Angelina said. Big Anthony, you can be my footman. What's a footman? Asked Big Anthony. Well, my footman will walk with me. Open the door for me. Run errands and help Bambolona to do everything I tell her to do. And, Angelina said with a big smile, you'll get to wear a beautiful uniform, just like Bambolona. Oh, look, they're painting her room blue with pink flowers, and shining her shoes, and plumping her cushions. Angelina called Big Anthony and Bambolona to her. I have this picture of my love, Hugo. Let's make a shrine for it. After all, we are both but the fairest of them all. Gather branches, flowers, anything to make it pretty. Hugo. It's beautiful, Angelina said. Now let's take a stroll. Footman, you will hold my umbrella, my parasol. Maid, you will walk ahead of me, carrying a basket full of flowers. You will scatter petals so I can walk on them instead of the dirty path. Do. Boy, Angelina called to a child who was playing. Run ahead to the town and tell everyone that Angelina, daughter of Duke Andrea di Limon, will honor them with a visit today, so they should prepare to meet me. Do. Back at home, Stregonona was looking for Big Anthony and Bambolona. Where did those two go? She asked herself. Oh, well, I'll just have to do their chores myself. Oh, dear me, Stregonona said when she saw Angelina's room. What happened in here? Then Stregonona spied the shrine. Well, I'll have to do something about all of this. Meanwhile, back in town, Angelina waved to the crowd. Arrivederci tutti. Goodbye, everyone. Don't be sad. I'll try to return. Who does she think she is? The mayor's wife said. I hope she never comes back. Later that night, Big Anthony and Bambolona went to see Stregonona. How much longer is she going to stay? Big Anthony asked. She keeps me so busy I don't have time to do my chores. Me too, chimed in Bambolona. She has me running around like a crazy chicken. And it's made this, made that. And you should have seen her in town. She bossed everyone around, even the mayor and the sisters of the convent. Don't worry, my children, Stregonona said. I have a plan. Angelina, called Stregonona, can you come and join me by your shrine? Oh, yes, said Stregonona. It looks like you care a lot for Hugo. Oh, I do, Stregonona. But he doesn't even know that he deserves me, Angelina complained. Well, maybe we can help, said Stregonona, holding up the magic book. In here is a spell for a potion for young ladies who want husbands. And I have another idea. Because Hugo likes to look at himself so much, why not change the picture in your shrine into a mirror? Oh, Stregonona, yes, 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 cried Angelina. But you must be patient, my dear. Let's see what happens. That night, Stregonona wrote a letter to Duke Andrea. Dear Cousin Andrea, I think I have the solution for your problem. Please come to fetch Angelina, but be sure to bring along Hugo at any cost. I don't care how you manage it, just do it. Amore e baci, love and kisses, your cousin Stregonona. A few days later, a letter arrived. Angelina, your father is coming to take you home, Stregonona said. And guess what? Hugo is with him. Now, Angelina, Stregonona whispered, here is the special potion. The minute Hugo sees the shrine, drink it. What will happen? Angelina asked. You'll see, said Stregonona. Hugo fell in love with the shrine immediately. How beautiful, he said to himself. You really understand me. We understand each other, Angelina said. Will you marry me? Hugo asked. Yes, 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 shouted Angelina. I thought you'd never ask. Goodbye. Arrivederci. Goodbye. Safe journeys. Best wishes for a happy wedding, everyone called out as the carriage was leaving. Boy, is he going to be busy, said Big Anthony. So is she, said Bambolona. They deserve each other, Stregonona said. How did you know? Big Anthony and Bambolina asked. Aha, the magic of mirrors, said Stregonona. They were both in love with themselves. The end.
Wise
And that's
Stregonona.
the end. Goodbye, and thank you.